Rambler, written by Louis Rossi, read by Essie Haven. I saw his headlights come washing up the road around 11, maybe a little after. I know because I was thinking of shutting up shop an hour early. It was a slow night. What else is new? And I thought the chances of anyone else passing by at this late hour were practically zero. I see a lot more of these graveyard shifts now Dad's too old and fat to run the store himself. I'm more or less head honcho at Dykes Gas and Goods these days. And you better believe that name got me teased all the way from grade school to graduation. Nor did it help that dear old Dad, in his infinite wisdom, decided to name his only daughter after himself. That's right, little Fran Dykes is really Frank Jr. I'm about to flip the open sign to closed when I see this yellow glow creeping through the trees about a half-mile distant. So instead of closing up, I sigh to myself, shrug my old parka over my shoulders, and head outside. Dykes Gas and Goods is full service, of course. Now there's the burble of an old V8 chasing the headlights through the woods. This guy's bound to stop. It's another 45 miles to the Chevron over in Lynx Falls, and by the sound of things, that's one thirsty motor. I push out into the night, setting the bell over the door a jingle, and step onto the pump island just as the oldest, filthiest, most beat-up SUV you ever saw comes heeling round the bend toward me, body rolling on its ancient shocks. The guy flicks on his left turn signal, the bulb winking feebly through layers of mud and dust. The car, is it a Bronco? A Chevy Blazer? Rumbles up to pump number 1 and lurches to a stop. The driver's side door, deformed from some long-ago collision, pops open with a little help from the guy's shoulder. Top it off, would ya? Regular, please and thanks. The man in front of me is the living embodiment of his truck. He's wearing a pair of faded blue jeans, torn and holed from heavy use. Not the kind some kids buy pre-ruined at the store. The cuffs are tucked into a pair of scuffed, faded, and shit-encrusted boots. On his top half is a padded jacket shedding feathers from half a dozen places, the holes patched up with electrical tape, and a tattered trapper cap, the kind with ear flaps. He looks, as old Grandma Dykes would have said, like he's been dragged through a hedge backwards. The guy strides away from me and stands at the edge of the lot, a fair enough distance from the pumps to light a cigarette. I hear the scratch of a safety match. A match, for Christ's sakes. And for a second, his face is illuminated in its flare. I catch a glimpse of 5-day beard stubble, cheeks scored with scratches and blasted by windburn, and the darkest, deepest pair of brown eyes I ever saw. Those eyes flick up to mine, and I look away, embarrassed. I unscrew the filler cap, pausing to wipe the grime off on my jeans, feed in the nozzle, and flip up the pump clip. And what did he see when he glanced in my direction, I wonder? A skinny chick in her dad's old army parka, once white sneakers, and a nose stud that no longer suits her. A college dropout who chose the family business over the triple threat of small-town occupations. Beautician, grocery store clerk, waitress. I smell tobacco on the air and wonder when I last saw anyone smoke a hand-rolled cigarette that didn't have weed in it. I look at the meter and I'm amazed to see a reading of $150 and climbing. Gas is expensive out here, but not that expensive. How big's the tank on this thing? I run my eye over the filthy machine parked haphazardly at my pumps. It's an American SUV, all right, probably early to mid-70s. But beyond that, it's an enigma. It has a two-tone paint scheme that might once have been red over cream or maybe brown over tan, but is now a faded no color marred with scratches and blooms of rust. The front fender is hidden behind an enormous aftermarket bull bar and winch setup, and a pair of fog lights glare like cat's eyes from either side of the grille. There's a roof rack holding a pair of brown canvas bags, both liberally coated with mud, and the kind of Boy Scout-style tent they must have quit selling 4 decades ago. On each corner is an enormous, knobbly, off-road tire with a rooster tail of mud thrown over the corresponding wheel arch. The pump cuts off, and I glance back at the meter. $237.52. Let's just hope he's good for it. I holster the pump, and the guy butts a cigarette and makes to follow me into the station. Going camping? I ask, though it's much too cold in my humble opinion. Something like that, he says. I push open the door and the bell tings again. His boots leave muddy impressions on the linoleum. That's a hell of a rig you've got there, I say, just making conversation while I ring him up on our curmudgeonly old cash register. She gets me around. Huh, with a tank as big as that, I'll just bet she does. That'll be $237.52, please. The guy's hands go into the side pockets of his jacket and come out clutching fistfuls of cash. Like he just has hundreds of bucks in there, rattling around loose. He plonks it all on the counter and starts leafing through it, calm as you please, like it don't mean nothing to him either way. Up close, his eyes are darker than brown. It's like they're almost black, pupil blending into iris in a spreading pool of oil. He's handsome, but in kind of a weird way. It reminds me of those faces made by a computer program that smooshes together all those average Joes from every country in the world. Uncanny. That's the right word for it. An English major's word. But for all that, it's familiar, too. A face I almost recognize. People around here have hung on to their cash longer than most folks. We do plenty of business in cash. But still, I can't remember the last time anyone handed over more than $200 in loose bills. And it isn't just bills. This guy's pockets are jingling with change, too. That down jacket must weigh near 10 pounds. He takes his time counting out the money while I pretend to restock the cigarette machine, my back to him. I can feel his eyes on me, those brown-black eyes, and I have to fight back a shiver. Nice roads around here, he drawls, and I almost jump out of my skin. Thinner than most places, you know? No, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Our roads are no more narrow than anywhere else, far as I can tell. But I grunt in affirmative. Seems required of me. Here you are, miss. He slaps a wad of creased and faded bills into my hand. They feel as thin as tissue paper. I hold the first one, a 20, up to my face. The text to the right of Jackson's portrait says Series 1963. I leaf through the stack. There's not a bill among them newer than the mid-'80s, and there's a 10, I had to check this one 3 times just to be sure, that says it was issued in 1891. The guy is waiting patiently, a faint smile on his lips. These are all out of circulation, I stammer, hating how small and scared my voice sounds. I can't accept them. His smile never leaves his face. You can't? We just stand there for a minute. Him grinning away. Me, eyes wide as saucers, with the money on the counter between us. Fuck it, I think. If it means this guy will leave, I'll even pay for his gas out of my next paycheck. I scoop up the money and start folding it away in the register. It dawns on me then that some of the older bills might be worth considerably more than the 200 and change. I realize, as I sort the last of the bills into their trays, that I don't know what the hell I'm going to say next if this guy won't up and leave. I slam the drawer of the register closed and look back up at him. Some inane shit about the weather or sports about to dribble off the end of my tongue, when he saves me the trouble. You got a restroom? He asks. Out back, I reply, grateful to have anything at all to say. Next to the sodas. All right, I'm going to freshen up. How about you clean that windshield of mine? There's an extra 10 in it for you. Sure, I reply, and he flashes me his eerie smile again as he heads for the John. So I go through the whole rigmarole a second time. Parka on, through the door, into the night, little bell a-ringin'. I get another chance to examine his ride while I'm washing the windows. It's no model I recognize, except it's like a next-door neighbor to the kind of vintage Fords and Chevys you see all the time out here. Usually so rusty you can practically read a newspaper through the panels, and with a mountain of crushed beer cans rattling around in the footwell as often as not. This thing has been driven just as hard as any of those old rust buckets, and yet it's different. There's no badge work on the rims for a start. No little blue oval or golden bow tie to help with identification. And up front, instead of a badge, there's this weird hood ornament. It looks like a fox? Its pointy, triangular face grinning a nasty little vulpine smile. Maybe a custom job, but on a beater like this? That makes no sense. Then there's the windshield itself. Up this close, I should be able to see through it into the cab beyond. Except I can't. Not even a little bit. It's the same with the side windows and the rear, too. The tint must be dark as a limo's. But the more I think about it, the more I realize I don't want to see this car's interior. It has a vibe I don't like. Not a bad vibe necessarily, but a strange one. Like, it hurts to look at it too long. It reminds me of that feeling you get when you cross your eyes and it kind of makes your brain sick for a second. Then there's the driver. I wring out the squeegee and get to work on the rear windshield, breath puffing little clouds up in front of me. I catch sight of my own reflection in the obsidian glass above the badgeless tailgate, and all of a sudden, I remember how I know the guy's face. There's a framed picture in the gas station's bathroom, mounted opposite the mirror so you can't miss it when you're washing your hands or fixing your hair. That's what reminded me, my reflection in the glass. This picture shows a line of cars waiting by pumps on the day we opened, January 14th, 1972. Dad dug it out and framed it to celebrate our 50th anniversary. You can see Grandpa right there in his bib overalls, pumping gas for our very first customer. And the guy standing next to him, leaning against the fender of his red over cream or brown over tan or whatever over whatever SUV. Whew. I wipe away the suds with a hand that isn't quite steady. And suddenly his reflection is swimming up behind mine. I let out a little scream and spin around on my toes, pressing my spine up against the car's filthy back deck. Sorry, hon. Didn't mean to startle you, he drawls, but his foxy smile says otherwise. Good job on the glass, by the way. Looks almost like a mirror, don't it? I'm looking up into his face, trying not to show how scared I am, but all the time my brain's yammering away at me. The bell above the door. The bell never rang, so he never walked through. The bell above the door never rang, so he never walked through. He carefully slips another 10 into my fist. He has to pry my fingers apart to do it. And when he does, little crescents stand out on my palm where my fingernails dug into the flesh. The guy walks around the car to the driver's side door and reaches for the dull chrome handle. Handsome, unreal face, still smiling away. Where are you going? The question, one I never meant to ask, bursts out of me on a held breath. He pins my gaze, deep brown eyes locked on my green ones. Through, he says, and opens the door. Darkness spills out from the vehicle's cab, a velvety blackness far darker than the night pressing in around us, sweet and suffocating as a womb. Within that well of shadow, the instrumentation glows with a greenish witchlight that reminds me of bioluminescent mushrooms, eyeless fishes in some ocean abyss. Come with me, if you like. The passenger door swings open in invitation, though his hand is nowhere near it. And for a second, I almost do. My own hand is on the doorframe and my foot is hovering above the rocker panel, body poised on the lip of a well. Through, he said. I can see the road unfurling before me, the silent roads through the dark woods, heading north, snow piling up around us. First forest, then mountain, then tundra. Finally, the pack ice, where dawn never comes. And then what? Through. No! I breathe and slam the door closed. That breaks the spell, and I'm running back across the lot, spotlit for a moment by the stark white fluorescence embedded in the awning and bursting through the door with its maddening, comforting bell. I am terrified that he'll follow, but then I hear that V8 burble to life again and his truck is pulling out into the night, sickly yellow high beams strobing the trees. I lean against the door for a second, catching my breath, and flip the sign from open to closed. Then I remember the 10 spot still clutched in my left hand. I unclench my fist and see a crumpled green bill gone limp with sweat. It doesn't surprise me at all to see Andrew Jackson, not Alexander Hamilton, staring back at me from the kind of oversized bill they stopped making around the time gals like me first got the vote. But curled up inside the 10 is another kind of note. A piece of lined paper torn carelessly from a cheap legal pad and scrawled on with scratchy black ballpoint. I'll be back, same time tomorrow. And I'll repeat my offer. Come with me. It's 10:55 and I'm back in my usual spot, propping up the counter of Dyke's Gas and Goods. Dad was working earlier in the evening, but he's already gone home, presumably to deepen the ass-shaped impression on the couch. He'll be retiring in a few years, and my name will be on the lease. Not just the sign-in sheet we keep next to the register. It's not so bad. I could be pulling pints at the Bronco Bar and Grill instead, or painting nails and setting hair in any of 4 equally janky beauty parlors. This way I'll have my own business. A fucking entrepreneur, thank you very much. I turn off the supply to the pumps and flick off the awning lights, bathing the lot in darkness. There's a hint of snow in the air. I can smell it blowing out of the north. My hand hovers over the open sign. It's been a slow night, but there's a chance I'll have one more customer before I'm done. In fact, I can see his headlights washing through the trees already and hear the rumble of his big V8. I reach out to flip the sign to closed and pause. I place my hand on the door and go through.